All right, and we are live. What's going on, everybody? We are coming into day 39, next to last day of the 40-day journey of the Hindrances to Revival, and getting my morning started and a little morning coffee, and just wanted to do this morning. I had busy afternoon, busy evening. It is our Thanksgiving dinner, and so anyway, with that tonight, our church Thanksgiving dinner, and so I wanted to do this because I know I'll be busy enjoying my church family tonight and all that comes with that. So day 39, don't just stand there, do something. Ask, seek, knock. Matthew 7 through 8, ask and it shall be given to you. Seek and you shall find. Knock and it shall be opened unto you. For everyone that asketh receiveth, and he that seeketh findeth, and to him that knocketh it shall be opened. Stop living your life on pause. Far too many Christians are stuck on pause and they think in reverse. Going forward is a foreign language to many believers. They're operating their daily lives in the present state of do nothing. Revival and spiritual awakening is crippled as long as we fail to press forward. Always staying in one place is not the way of success. Success means living our lives with a level of expectancy, which takes us to a completely new level of engagement. We must be asking ourselves, what does God want us to use to fan the flames of revival and spiritual awakening? You know, that's a question as a pastor I've asked myself. God, I know that there are a lot of personal revivals. Now, I know that there are the church as a whole is in, I believe, a state of revival. You can look across the news agencies and you can see that. But as a pastor, I can see the fires of revival. I can see individual revivals popping up, different ones that are in my specific reach, and I can see little revivals happening, little revivals where prayer lives are forming and intimate times with the Lord seem to be increasing, and levels of intensity rising. People, just weeping driving to work and weeping sitting on their couch at home as a worship song comes on that just grabs a hold of them. I've been seeing lots of personal revivals, people that are just seemingly out of nowhere, a fire being lit inside of them, and they're just not even knowing what's happening and just following after the Lord and just going for it. I'm watching these revivals that are popping up everywhere, all over my personal life, and I've asked the Lord, I want to fan the flame of those revivals and to see it spread and for people to grab a hold of it and for folks to get out of their do-nothing state, but start encouraging and getting thankful and saying words of expectation. I cannot wait for Sunday. I cannot wait to see what God does in my Monday. I can't wait to get home with my family and feel the goodness of God in my home. Like all these expectations and getting to the point where we not just do nothing, but starting to move and get access to the things that God has for you specifically, so that more personal revivals happen. That's what this is all about. This whole series is about your personal revival. It's not about a church revival. It's not the church that this guy, Aaron, pastors was, revival. It's not about my church. It's about you. You are the church. I'm not talking about a church building or an organization. I'm talking about you, your personal revival. If we could get it on your level and you start grabbing a hold of it and you start raising that banner high, that's where we'll see corporate change that'll take place, because I believe you have 3 other people that you personally are connected to that simply living what's going on in your life, getting into that space of revival and awakening. You have 3 people that I believe, are called to affect. And they may already be starting a little bit, and coming in contact with you just sends it over the edge. I believe that you're going to come in contact, or you are in contact with 3 specific people. three folks that are going to be encouraged by you. And you may say, oh, not me. Absolutely you. Every one of you that are watching this right now, you are connected to somebody in your life that your positive change will make incredible difference in at least three people in your life. And your personal revival will spill over and others will feel the same thing. And they are, I believe, responsible to connect to three people. And then those three and so forth and so on. It continues to do it. But we have to get out of our state of do nothing. We've got to get out of the do nothing state. Revival and spiritual awakening, I'm going to read this again, is crippled as long as we fail to press forward. You've got to do something with it. I've been asking, Lord, how do we fan the flames of revival? Always staying in one place doesn't do it. We got to live our lives in and with a level of expectancy that takes you into a whole new level of engagement. It's time for you to stop expecting the same old, which basically feels like no expectation, because why get my expectations up? It's going to be the same. And so you don't really have a spirit of expectation. You just kind of have this hesitant approach to how everything in your life ends up happening, because in your mind, nothing good is going to happen. If you start to constantly expect that, you're going to get that every time. But if you begin to change your level of expectancy and say, you know what, I am in a revival. And I know it may not seem like much to some, but these words are finding a place in me. And that's where revival starts. It's where the word starts finding a home. And if this is something that begins to excite you, or if this is something that is beginning to encourage you, or this is something that you feel like you needed to hear, friends, you may be receiving the invitation to your revival. You may right now be starting the very beginnings of a powerful personal revival that will affect your three and then some. But you've got to start receiving and moving in this. It's so necessary, and it will change your level of engagement. We got to be asking ourselves, what does God want to use to fan the flames of revival and spiritual awakening? Not only are we to ask what Jesus also instructs us as his disciples to seek and to find. So not only are we to ask, but Jesus also instructs us as his disciples to seek and to find. Not just ask, but then it's your job to seek and to find. You can ask. You can stay in that space of, okay, you've got my attention. It's not just about your attention being had. You now have a responsibility. You now have an opportunity and an obligation to seek and to find. After you've asked, you then have to move. You're going to have to get up off your couch of do nothing and to move. But what are you here to find? God wants us to find where he's at. God wants you to find where he resides. God resides in the hearts of men and women who have been washed clean by God's revival and spiritual awakening. He revives the Christian and awakens the unbelieving dead. You have those in your life that you walk with every single day, and you may not even realize this, but they are walking dead people. They have not heard the good news of the gospel, or been given to them, or it been given to them by a person that they trust. A person that they trust, a person that they know will bring to them the truth. And they're not somebody that's going to just blow smoke. Go ahead and go with mom. It's okay. But they're not just going to blow smoke, but it's someone they trust. It's someone they have history with. It's somebody that they know is the real deal. There's somebody that's waiting on you. They're dead. They're dead. That they have not come awake yet. Have you ever thought maybe they're one of the three? Makes me wonder. What are the three that I do life with every single day that are walking around as dead men and women? But they would hear it from me. They would hear the message that I carry, or the message that I live. It would make an impact if I would just begin to fan the flames of my personal revival. There is somebody that I specifically can help break through that ice, that icy cold heart, and get them walking in the fires of revival. Wow, what a wake-up call. That ought to stir you. And you want to know who the three are. You'll never know until you get on fire. You'll know who they are whenever the light's lit. They're not coming to something that's as dead as them. But I promise you that there's somebody in your life that an awakened version of you will make incredible impact on them. Did you ever stop and think about that? That there might be somebody that no one else could potentially help get through, but you were called to get them through. Wow. That's a wake-up call. As long as we refuse to make Christ known in our daily lives through personal sacrifice and prayer, what's personal sacrifice? It's forgiving when you don't want to forgive. It's healing when you don't feel like healing. It's talking about the goodness of God instead of the oh me, the oh my terrible life, oh how difficult things are being, oh I'm going through a rough time. Instead of that, maybe a personal sacrifice of saying, God is so good. Even though I've had some struggles, who doesn't? I'm so glad that God is good. You begin to make him known. Personal sacrifice. Personal sacrifice is you leaning on the everlasting arms of God and not leaning on your own understanding or wanting to draw negative attention to yourself. I see people, good quality leaders that just constantly, I've seen it, leaders in life, leaders in business, people that have got incredible secure you think, have incredible secure hearts, but then they have moments. I think we've all been there. I know I have, where I've had moments. But it's in those moments where it's personal sacrifice helps me to say, okay, God, I don't want to lead anybody down a pity party path. I want them to see you and not me. And they may not ever know that the post, that's just giving you glory, they may not ever know that I posted something that gave God glory. But on the other side of that post, when my hands were tapping the screens of my phone, writing it out, tears were streaming down my face because I had felt a struggle in my life. But instead of me leading somebody down a pity party path with me, I gave God glory. That's personal sacrifice. And the hand of God will touch your life, and he'll begin to fan the flames of personal revival, because it's not about people seeing you in your struggle. It's about people not even knowing that you were going through what you were going through, but instead of going to the public, you went to the master. And when you went to the master in that moment, and instead of putting out what you wanted to put out, you gave thanks to God. God saw you and said, I'm proud of you. And it's in those moments that he inhabits your praise and your personal sacrifice. It takes personal sacrifice and prayer. That's communication with God. We should never expect our sinful and ungodly world to ever change. Don't expect them to change. Change only comes at a price. And the ultimate price has already been paid on a hill far away called Calvary. So let's boldly ask, but don't just ask. Seek and knock so that others might find Jesus. It's going to take work. You're going to have to seek in your day. You're going to have to seek in your life, in the moments of your life, and you're going to have to knock. Take them knuckles. Take the effort. Cross that boundary. I told you the story. I had a young man in my chair yesterday. I couldn't just ask for the opportunity to make an impact in someone's life. When the awkward moment came up, I was able to speak to him and guide him. And what happened in that moment? Well, I asked, Lord, use me if you want to use me today. But then after that, I had to be in a position that was ready to be used, not just as a barber, but as a child of God. Okay, so I couldn't just only focus on my work. I had to be ready for even the smallest of opportunities to in some way make an impact. And guess what? The opportunity came and I sought it out, and I needed the Lord to help me, and he did. And he gave me the right words, I believe, to say. And I believe that they were rightly timed. Somebody later on came and they told me, they said, hey, that young man really needed those words from you today. There's a lot going on you may not understand, and it was right timing. It wasn't because I knew it was right timing. It's because I was seeking an opportunity to put a seed into someone's life, whatever it was or wherever it was, and to just live my life in front of them. That's all I was. I got to be who I was in his presence, not as his barber, but I got to be who I was as a pastor, child of God, in front of him. And I believe when we do that, it creates opportunity. He may have been one of my three. He may have been one of my three that the dead came to life in that moment. And he had been to church. He'd been doing some things to try to get his life together, but he needed that real impact from a place he didn't see coming. Okay, he'd been to church. He'd been religious. He'd been trying to do the right things, but it's in that one-on-one contact. Those are the moments that really matter. You know, it's not just in a service behind a podium, but it's in the moment when you live your life in front of them that makes the greatest impact. So finally, let's boldly ask, seek, and knock so that others might find Jesus. The hindrances to revival in the local church will never be shattered apart from a persistent spirit of asking, seeking, and knocking on the door of heaven. You can't be on the seat of do nothing. You have to begin operating. Why don't you start doing that right now? Why don't you, if these words are trying to find a home in you, let them resonate deeply? Why don't you let this word find its place in your life? Why don't you say, there's a personal revival? I'm by faith declaring that there is a personal revival that's happening in my life right now. And, you know, I need to nourish the hunger for that and stop numbing myself with the scrolling on Facebook, stop numbing myself to getting lost on Netflix and Hallmark shows, to stop numbing myself to, you know, getting caught up in all of the elements of the day and the world. But let me do what grows my hunger for the things of God and help me to stop the things that are eating up my creativity for the kingdom. Creativity is the way you seek. It's the way you knock. It's the opportunities that come across that you're ready to give a word because you spent just a little time in his presence and got just a little bit of revelation, enough to share. So let me say this to you in closing. Do or find something in a way that will help you just a little bit to share. Find something to share today. The gospel is amazing, but maybe find a story. Maybe find a little revelation. Something to share. Find today, ask the Lord to show you something to share. Maybe you look it up. Maybe you look at a little devotional or a page somewhere and share it with somebody that you don't normally have these conversations with and say, man, I read something so neat today, and then share whatever it was that the Lord led you to find. Seek. You got to seek it. So when you get off this, you ask the Lord, Father, I know that this resonated in me. Help me to find it. Help me to find whatever it is, God, that I can share. Because I want to share something. And not just, you know, share it on your Facebook. I'm talking about with a real person today. Maybe you're at I'm thinking of my life. I'll be at the church later, and maybe somebody who, you know, doesn't normally come around is there and be like, you know, it's so wild today. I read something, and just pull it up out of thin air. It always is. I love to do that. I will pull something, out of thin air, and folks are just like, yeah, where did that come from? You don't know, but find something to share. And when you share that, you'll never know just what God's doing. But that's how you begin to fan the flames of revival. Share it with at least 3 people. Let's say that. How about you try to find your 3 today? And just when the opportunity's there, go after it. That's how you begin to fan the flames of revival. Ask, seek,